Something that's really useful is using Google Scholar to look up our sources, especially if they're a little bit older. So, for example, I want to take a look at this article that's in Linguistics and Education from 1994 by George Wells. So, they're talking about a particular set of theories that are really important, right? So, 1994 is kind of old, and we've kind of come a long way in looking at language change and variation since that time. What's really important is looking at this little link down at the bottom that says cited by 280. And what you'll notice is underneath a lot of these little articles, underneath these books, there's these little cited by features underneath each of them. What this essentially means is since this was written in 1994, 280 different publications have come out that have used this as a source themselves. And that can be really useful. So if we click on that cited by, we get to see the articles that have been published or the books that have been published that use the ideas from that original source. And that's extremely useful. So we have things from 2004, so that's 10 years later. We have things from 2014, that's 20 years later. And all of these can be really useful in kind of seeing how the discussion around this topic has changed over time. We can also use these date ranges that are over here on Google Scholar to see what the most recent information is. So I can do since 2016, and that changes, the number of things that we get as well. I can even do things since 2019. And so I just have the most recent information. I can see if that has anything to do with what I want to work on for my project. So for example, if I'm talking about language change and variation, then I definitely want to talk about, English for specific purposes, traditions, trends, and directions. What this is doing is it's showing me exactly what has happened since the original article was written. So I can click on that, and that becomes the next source that I can use for my project. Now, what's really important is Google Scholar doesn't necessarily give us access to full articles. So sometimes we will have access, like here we have the PDF to the full text. If it asks you to pay for a text, you want to go log into our library and see if we have access to it through our databases. What you'll also see on the right-hand side is whether or not we have access to it through our library. Now what you'll see is there's not a whole lot here that has the CGC or the Maricopa Library next to it, and that can be problematic. So that's why it's dangerous to start with Google Scholar, but Google Scholar can give you an idea of how to use that cited by function to help you find the most recent sources that are about a given topic that you want to talk about in your projects.